Chapter 10. Oi, you two, over here! A boy's face poked out from a little door that was cut into the larger entrance. Imogen and Mary didn't hesitate. They ran over. The boy opened the door wider and the girls fell inside. He pulled the door closed, shutting out the starlight and monsters. Keys jangled in the dark. They won't get through that, he said, and the candle illuminated his face. He had far apart eyes, dark olive skin, and a mop of curly brown hair that couldn't quite hide his sticky-out ears. He pressed an ear to the door, and the girls did the same. Claws scratched on cobbles. The boy put his finger to his lips. The shrieking creatures, whatever they were very close. Imogen held her breath. The door rattled. The children jumped back, and Mary let out a whimper. Outside, the monsters were screaming to be let in. They won't get past the door, whispered the boy. They never do. Sure enough, after a few minutes, the noise receded. The children stood still for 1 minute more, not daring to move, until the shrieks had faded away. Right, said the boy, putting down his candle. First things first. Imogen wiped her hand on her jeans in preparation for a handshake. Face the wall and put your hands on your head. What? You heard me, said the boy. Turn round and put your hands up. Reluctantly, Imogen did as she was told. The boy searched inside the top of her socks. Then he turned her pockets inside out. What are you doing? Said Imogen. Checking for weapons, said the boy. Why don't you just ask? Peasants can't be trusted. Besides, if you'd come to kill me, you'd never hand over your knives willingly. Imogen had never been called a peasant before. She looked down at her mud-streaked clothing. Perhaps he had a point, but still, it was hardly polite. You are clear, said the boy. Stand aside. Next, he searched Mary. He lifted up her ponytail with great suspicion and gave it a shake as if expecting a dagger to fall out. Imogen watched him. She guessed he was about her age, perhaps a little older. He was dressed very strangely, in an embroidered jacket that looked like it was made out of fancy curtains. He wore rings on almost every finger. We're not peasants, she said. But the boy wasn't listening. He was going through Mary's pockets, and he'd found something. He held it between his thumb and index finger, inspecting it in the candlelight. Imogen saw the shiny surface, and she knew what it was. That's my stone, she said. Mary must have had it in her pocket since their fight. Mary lowered her hands and turned round, guilt written all over her face. The boy continued to study the fool's gold, so Imogen said it again. That's mine. That's from my rock collection. What's a peasant doing with a precious stone? Imogen could feel that familiar quickening of her pulse, but she spoke every word slowly. Give it back. I am not a peasant. Mary looked from her big sister to the boy and back to her big sister. Sorry, Imogen. I was going to give the treasure back eventually. I promise. I just wanted to borrow it. Imogen advanced on the boy. Give me my gold, you thief. Who are you to call me a thief? He sneered. This is my kingdom, and so is everything in it, including you, your friend, and your so-called treasure. That was the last straw. Imogen pounced. She knocked the fool's gold out of the boy's hand and pushed him to the floor. Mary caught the stone. Imogen and the boy were a tumbling mess of arms and legs. His elbow clipped her chin, making her jaw bend shut. She retaliated with a knee to his stomach. Ow! You filthy urchin! Get off me! Mary! Cried Imogen. Grab his arms! Mary shoved the stone back into her pocket and went for the boy's wrists. She caught one. Imogen trapped the other hand with her foot, making the boy cry out. The rest of him thrashed wildly. Help me! He shouted. Somebody help! They're trying to kill me! Imogen kicked the shoe from her other foot, wiped off her sock, and stuffed it into his mouth. She pulled the scrunchie from Mary's hair and wrapped it round the boy's wrists, handing control to Mary. That freed up Imogen to grab his ankles. The boy stopped wriggling. Ha! So you know when you're bitten then? Crowed Imogen. He looks kind of angry, said Mary. His face is going red. Well, that's tough, isn't it? He shouldn't take other people's things. Is someone squeezing your head? Cooed Mary to the boy, enjoying her position of power a little too much. Imogen paused. Wait, what do you mean his face is going red? She couldn't see him properly from her position at his feet. He looks like a beetroot, said Mary. The sock! Cried Imogen. Oh, look how his eyes are bulging. He's really very cross. Mary, the sock! Take the sock out his mouth. Mary obeyed. The boy inhaled, and Mary let go of his ankles. The sisters were silent for a moment, while the boy rolled onto all fours, sputtering and gasping. Why, I ought to set the royal guards on you. He struggled to his feet. I ought to have you both beheaded. I ought to have you chopped up and fed to my fish. That's enough, interrupted Imogen in as kind a voice as she could manage. We didn't mean to choke you. She pulled the scrunchie off his wrists and handed it back to Mary. You must forgive my sister, said Imogen. Hey, it wasn't just me that tied him up. Imogen shot Mary a meaningful look. She was dropped on her head as a baby. The boy looked at Mary with his far-apart eyes. Is that what turned her hair orange? It's not orange, said Mary. It's red. Looks orange to me, said the boy. Imogen stepped between them. Look, I think we got off on the wrong foot. The boy let out a long sigh. You're right, he said. I don't normally do that to guests. To be honest, I don't normally have guests at all. What a surprise, muttered Imogen. The boy didn't seem to hear. When my uncle has people to visit, the royal guards confiscate their weapons. Oh, right, said Imogen, thinking that was probably the right response. So, when Petra's not about, I have to take precautions. I see, said Imogen, who didn't see at all. How about we just start this whole thing again, said the boy. A rematch? Cried Mary. No, let's say you just came through the door. Pretend you did. Yes, that's it. And I've just locked it, and you say, Hello, Your Majesty. What a pleasure to meet you. Imogen wasn't sure about the script. She didn't think the boy should cast himself as royalty. However, she was in a tricky situation. She needed his help. Good evening, Your Majesty, she said, giving a wobbly courtesy. Mary did the same. What a pleasure it is to meet you, said Mary. The boy bowed low. The pleasure is all mine, he said. Welcome to Castle Yaroslav.